Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Hey guys, Jared Moon here, and welcome to the Better Humanology podcast. This week, we have James Slade. James has actually been on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast, so maybe you've heard him there. He actually has been one of our Garage Gym Athletes for several years now, which is really cool. But what James has been working on through his own personal journey is keto. And the reason he got into keto was very organic. It wasn't any sort of fad or crash thing that he was trying to do. He was actually doing it out of necessity. He gets into that. And James, being one of our Garage Gym Athletes doing our training, I've really listened to him a lot on keto, going keto, and what it takes, what his lifestyle looks like, because it's hard to look through the lens of other people who don't understand your training or how you're going about it. So if you are one of our Garage Gym Athletes and you are interested in going keto, definitely listen to what James has to say. It's very, very interesting. We've had so many athletes interested in keto, doing it, and there's a lot of mix here. I want to provide more and more resources for our athletes on ketosis and ketogenic diets, mainly because of the amount of questions that I'm getting. And there are a lot of strength and conditioning coaches who do strength and conditioning and think that keto is just absolutely impossible. You need absurd amounts of carbohydrate. You won't have enough. And so they kind of bash the keto diet. And then there are those who are, true believers in the diet. And, James has really proven that it works for him. Now, I kind of want to give my opinion on keto and some things that I'm doing, a little bit longer intro here just for a minute. So I actually am going to try a ketogenic diet. We talk about that a little bit in the podcast. I'll probably be posting things on my Instagram account. You can search for me. I'm at EO3_fit. I'm sure if you just typed in EO3fit, you would find me. I'll probably be doing some Instagram stories and updates there, kind of like when I did the Murph project. I'm going to be going keto for a while. James is helping me out in doing that just because, will keto work with my style of training? I don't want to be one of those coaches, and there are plenty of them out there, a lot of people with opinions on things who have never actually tried something. I don't personally think that keto will be a lifestyle thing for me because I don't have anything in particular. I don't have a gigantic why behind doing keto like James does, unless I have some just amazing results, cognitive benefits, something like that makes me want to stick. But I'm going to try it mainly for our athletes. So if you remember, if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, the podcast started around experiments and testing ourselves, testing our bodies. That's what Talon and I were doing originally. We were testing out cold thermogenesis and testing out gratitude journals and all these different things on what could actually make us better. And I'm going to do that with the ketogenic diet. I'm going to see how I'm already relatively low carb. I'm going to see how going ultra low carb, actually getting into a state of ketosis, how it affects me, how it helps my training. I'll be updating you guys every step of the way. And James will probably be back on the podcast. We're also doing some stuff in the Garage Gym Athlete Facebook group. If you want to be a part of that, we'll do some lives just to talk about it a little bit more. Because the people who think that keto is just a fad, a flash in the pan, I have a few opinions on that mindset. So a true fad is something like Pokemon Go. It lasts it's this silly game that lasted for a week in popularity, and then boom, no one is even talking about it. I'm sure it's still a game and has its true followers, but it's not a thing anymore. That was a fad. That is not exactly what keto is. It's not a flash in the pan. This whole carnivore keto direction is gaining a lot of momentum, primarily because of the people seeing results. That's now being coupled with more research. Now, I'm not saying that I 100% advocate a ketogenic diet, and I would like to go through ketosis myself and my training and see how it actually helps me to provide you guys more information. But I don't think that it's just a fad that people are getting into. If you think that, then I would consider, is anything that you're doing right now a fad, or was it once considered a fad? So if you or if you're into CrossFit, if a few years ago, like whatever, 5 to 7 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, everyone thought CrossFit was a fad, right? It's this new style of training. It'll die out, whatever. CrossFit's only continued to grow. And same with paleo diet. Paleo, and, Rob Wolf, published his book, Paleo Solution, and that really came onto the scene pretty hardcore. Paleo was supposed to be like this fad, right? Well, it's still going on. And now keto is kind of just a more serious, a lower carbohydrate version of paleo for the most part. And, some of my concerns in going ketogenic was the lack of micronutrients. And I think that might still be true in the carnivore diet. In the carnivore diets where you're eating only meat, but I truly think, you can get a lot of micronutrients in your diet in a ketogenic diet, in ketosis. James has shown me how he does that. And I've also looked at a lot of different resources from Rob Wolf and everything else showing that you can have a really clean, healthy diet with a lot of, micronutrient packed foods and still be in a state of ketosis. So like I said, I'll keep you guys updated on how this goes, whether it is a complete epic failure to where either I can't handle it or, I started losing too much weight, so I quit. Or if it's just amazing and I get super, I see super performance gains, whatever, I'm gonna update you guys on the entire process, probably through podcasts and, like I said, Instagram, other stuff. So that was a longer introduction to keto. I just kind of want to talk about, keep an open mind to keto. I think a lot of coaches are bashing it right now without any experience. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who's actually tried it. Then I can give you my true opinion of it. And I still won't bash it. I keep an open mind to everything. I think everything has some validity to it and can help people in different ways. We'll see if keto is or is not for me. Now, James has a lot of great information going all the way back to kind of where the keto diet first came up, why he got into it. We talk a lot about net carbohydrates, understanding that and how it applies to being a ketogenic athlete, and a lot of other great stuff. So if you've been interested in keto, we've had a few other keto experts, doctors, PhDs, whatnot. But this is a garage gym athlete. So our style of training, strength and conditioning, who's been keto for over a year, telling his results and how he did it. So really pay attention to this one. Take some notes. And if you have any more questions for me or James about keto, please shoot me an email. Let me know. Because like I said, we'll be doing another podcast. We'll be doing Facebook Live for our garage gym athletes, all sorts of stuff coming your way to help you learn more about whether or not this is something worth investing your time in or not. So without any further ado, here is James Slade on a ketogenic.
All right, James, welcome to the Better Humanology podcast. As always, super pumped to have you here, man. How you doing?
Hey, Jared, I'm doing good. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get started, but you know how we start as a listener of the podcast. So we're going to get in with some challenges, man. You have a fitness challenge for us?
I do. So something I've been doing this last year is running Spartan races. So a good fitness challenge for everybody out there is go train and run a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder, Savage race, whatever you want to do. Do any distance. You can pick it based on your fitness level. But they're all difficult. They'll all strain you.
For sure.
Sprints are fun. I'm doing a beast in October.
I might join you. We'll see.
Yeah. Come out there with me. And then the very next day, I'm going to do a sprint after that. So I kind of wish that was flip-flopped, but that'll be a big fitness challenge.
I'm going to have some questions about that here in a minute, too, with your ketoness, which we're talking about today. Oh, and I did want to just quickly let everyone know. So James and I, we just finished the EO3 fitness test. We're actually in my garage right now. And I'm recording on some new equipment, so if it sounds a little bit different, we're going to do whatever we can in post-production. I apologize. We will make sure the audio quality is the best we can possibly make it. But that's why we sound a little bit different, because we're actually in person in my garage. All right, man, so how about a mental toughness challenge?
Yeah, mental toughness challenge. So this one's kind of short and sweet. Only take the stairs for a whole year.
A year, nice.
So if
my favorite kind.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes a mental toughness challenge, as opposed to like, oh man, I don't want to take the stairs today.
Yeah.
It's do it for a year. So anytime you have an opportunity to take the stairs, take the stairs over the elevator or the escalator every single time. And it's hard because if you work or live on a high floor of an apartment complex, I work in an office building and I have for the last 5 or 6 years, where I work on the 6th floor. Every single day.
That's awesome.
I walk up 6 flights of stairs. I walk down 6 flights of stairs. Sometimes that happens 3-4 times a day. And I do it every day. And I do not want to do it at least 50% of the time.
Yeah.
But I do it. And I'm about 6 months into that particular challenge.
It's really beneficial. So we both went to Tech, which is by land mass the second largest, right?
Yes.
Like, and I don't even count the Air Force Academy because they have some land that's like bogus or whatever. But so really, Texas Tech University is the largest campus in the U.S., right? And we would walk like miles. Like I always tried to. That's when I was like bodybuilding, mass gain type stuff. And it would be so hard for me to pack on weight because I'm walking like 5-10 miles a day,
so many calories.
Just going in between classes. So I think the stairs thing is a great. It really adds up, you know.
But bodybuilders don't walk anyway.
Yeah, no,
they curl.
Yeah, they like to struggle breathing when they're. All right, man. So how about a book recommendation?
Yeah, so I'm going to cheat here because a lot of people have on your podcast. Sorry, but I'm going to give you 3 just because I think it's fun. So I'm going to do one that you're probably expecting here. That's very keto oriented. So it's The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance by Doctors Jeff Volek and Stephen Phinney. So
awesome.
These 2 guys, Phinney in particular, have been multi-decade keto researchers, and it's a really quick read. It's very science heavy. But it's a very quick read. It's only like, maybe under 200 pages. But if you really want to dive in and learn the science of keto, and the book at this point I think is like 10 years old, right? So there has been an enormous amount of research on the keto diet that has come out.
Keto was like a ghost 10 years ago.
Yeah, totally. Well, what's really funny is it was first proposed as an eating strategy in the 1800s and like the 1880s.
Yeah.
And it was modeled after the Inuit diet. That's when it sort of first came into publicity, and then it was being even used for clinical purposes as early as the 1910s, teens, into the 30s to treat epilepsy. So it's been around for a really long time. Most people don't know that. It really lost a bunch of steam through the 60s and 70s. And what's funny is when I started doing it, my mom even told me about it, and she was like, "Oh, we did keto in the 70s."
Yeah, right. This is new
to lose weight, and I know it's really bad for your kidneys. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Mom!"
Right?
No, it's not. It's just for everybody listening. Keto is not bad on your kidneys, especially if you're doing it in a well formulated way. It's nutrient dense. But yeah, it's been around for a really long time. There's contrary to popular belief, there's a ton of research on it.
Yeah,
that's very, very positive, both for athletes, for clinical purposes, like things like treating epilepsy, neurodegenerative disease.
I think especially now there's a lot of research, because when I first started coaching, 2009, 10, 11 timeframe, and I started writing articles 2010, 2011, I would always have to asterisk keto and ketosis and explain what this is, what your body's doing. Now using fat for fuel type, I have to, because no one knew. Yeah. And I talked to an athlete and I would say keto and they'd be like, what are you talking about? And it's blown up. And what's also blown up though, not just the popularity of it, is what you're talking, the research base has just tenfold over the last couple of years, which is awesome because now there's more legs to stand on and why you should actually do something like this. So,
and the community surrounding it, which really has spurred off of these two guys, Volek and Phinney. Everyone who has come in their wake has really done amazing stuff. The community is so super supportive, and it's just a fun space to be in right now. So that is sort of the starting point of where I really started to dig deep into the science of keto. So the art and performance of low carbohydrate performance. They have another book that preceded that one called The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living that's less geared towards athletic performance.
Okay.
So that's
nice.
The first book. The second one that I'm currently reading is 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson.
Ah, yes, I've read that one, yeah.
Dude, that might be one of the most profound, if not the most profound things I've ever read. In fact, I've had to start reading it and stop to digest and start and stop.
You can get lost, especially with some of his analogies and stuff too. If you're not paying attention, you will be like, why are we talking about lobsters again?
Yeah.
You'll get lost really fast.
Yeah, he's a very deep thinker. But honestly, listen to a chapter. Each chapter is a rule. There's only 12 rules, so it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
If you really stop and think about each individual rule, I haven't been able to disagree with a single thing that he says in that entire book. And all of it holds value. So that's a great one, is the 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson, who, by the way, is an avid carnivore.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He and his daughter both, Michaela Peterson, had severe autoimmune stuff that have both been dramatically helped by going 100% meat, which is crazy.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. A lot of people doing this who you wouldn't otherwise suspect. Cool, dude. Well, let's get into your background. Yeah. So I'll let you take away most of the background, but I will say, so James has been, how long have you been with Garage Gym Athlete?
2.5 years?
Yeah, 2.5 years training. Came to my house when we did Murph, one of the few who took me up on my offer when I said, hey, come over to my house and do Murph. He's been on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. You can listen to that episode too. Now he's on the Better Humanology podcast. Really full circle, really awesome. But I mean, you have more to introduce and talk about. I always let the guests take it as far back as you'd like to. Like, and what we're talking about today, because we haven't really talked about it other than your book recommendation, is keto. Like we were talking about keto, and James has become my go-to guy over the last several months. If I want to know something about keto or talk to about keto, I like to go to someone in the community, someone I trust, who knows my training, who knows what we're doing. So James, man, I'll let you take it away with intro and background.
Right on. Well, thanks for having me, Jared. My background, I guess the best place to start is that I am a lifelong athlete. Grew up kind of doing what a lot of kids did, playing soccer, playing t-ball, playing baseball. Was not very good at those just because I wasn't super coordinated. Got into football when I was in middle school and fell in love with it. Hitting, blocking, tackling, all the fundamentals, right? Really fun. And also, I was a really chubby kid growing up. And so, the soccer field, there's not much of a place for a chubby winger or a striker or something like that. Even defenders, you got to run a whole lot. Yeah. But you can be an offensive lineman. And so that's kind of where I fell. As I played center, I played guard, I played a little bit of fullback. But didn't ever move really fast and didn't catch, but I could hit really hard and had a lot of fun with that. Started weight training and, seeing the benefits of hypertrophy, getting a little bit bigger, a little bit more attention from girls.
We've all been there. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. I think we all have been. And then, played through high school, got an offer to go play at sort of a smaller liberal arts college. Was not a scholarship opportunity, so did not continue to play in college. And so I went to, as you mentioned, I went to Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. No way am I walking on at Texas Tech, just not big enough physical stature-wise. So, but my athletic career ended kind of quietly there, but my eating career really took off big time my freshman year, and I put on, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 pounds my freshman year and got really
good
big.
60 or 70? Or good or bad 60?
Oh, very negative.
Okay.
Very, very suboptimal 60.
Freshman 60, all right.
I redefined the freshman 15
You got it.
to the freshman 60 or so. And had always been a big guy, but basically I lost all my strength, put on a bunch of fat, basically ate whatever I want. It very much under the mindset that I still see a lot of athletes carry over, which is I train in order to eat.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Not eat in order to fuel my training or fuel my life, fuel my mental performance.
Yeah.
I exercise so I can eat ice cream every day. And I've literally said that. I've been there.
Oh, I know a lot of people who,
Even
a lot of people tell me that all the time. Yeah. But this is why I'm exercising. I'm like, okay.
Right, and it blows my mind. The exercise is just the catalyst for the rest of your performance throughout your life, whether it's physical or mental, whatever. So,
I just want to hit on that mentality just for anyone listening. That's okay to a degree. If you want to eat a certain way and just exercise to be able to eat that way, but to me, that's not getting better. It's running on a treadmill. It's a hamster wheel, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You can do that, especially in your 20s and 30s, maybe even a little bit into your 40s. But you're not getting any better. You're making no forward progress. You'll be the guy who's been in the gym 20 years, but everyone's like, wait, you work out?
Right.
That, if you're just eating like trash but matching it with movement. So,
right.
Nothing wrong with it unless you really want to get better. But
yeah, and it's okay to have a treat too.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
And while we're at it, carbs aren't the enemy.
Yeah,
we could talk more about that, but carbs are a tool, right?
Yeah.
Just as treats can be a tool to help open up your make your diet not feel restrictive if that's what you need. But so back to my background really quickly. Fast forward, graduated. I'm not a formally educated health and fitness guy. I didn't get a kinesiology degree or anything like that. I'm a marketing guy. I got a degree in advertising, and then I got an MBA after that, and went into the workforce, went into marketing. And so I work for a marketing agency and still work a full-time job. But about 2 years ago, I really started getting into functional training. I had kind of come from the same path and background you did, Jared, which is bodybuilding and girls get girls kind of deal.
Yeah.
And in college, got real big. I think the heaviest I was 210.
Oh, nice.
Pretty big, pretty strong, but I was pretty pillowy too.
Yeah,
would be a good word for it.
Yeah, just a little soft, but strong. I'll get out.
Soft,
Probably.
strong, but can't run, not very functional.
Yeah,
no mobility. And then about 2.5 years ago, I got injured really bad. I tore my labrum, which is the cartilage in between your femur and your hip, basically in your hip joint socket. And I have a 40% labral tear on the front part of my labrum. And
ouch.
Yeah, it hurt really bad. So I couldn't get out of bed basically for 6 months, couldn't walk, definitely could not squat.
It's pretty serious. Like, I've had some pretty bad hip flexor injuries before, and you do not realize how much those muscles operate down there until you've injured one.
Yeah.
And it is brutal.
Yeah. So I wasn't training. I was just super frustrated because training was such a big part of my life. And then I was like, all right, well, what do I do? So I went to a PT. I probably saw 3 or 4 PTs, 3 or 4 orthopedic specialists. I finally landed at a guy who's considered one of the top 3 orthopedic surgeons in the nation working on this particular type of injury. And he took one look at my MRI and he goes, so you're never going to squat under load again, number 1. And number 2, you should probably take up golf. Because I told him, I'm a lifter. Like, I do functional training. I lift weights. Like, I squat. He's like, you'll never squat again.
Wow.
And we need to do this surgery, which is called a hip arthroscopy, which is, if you've not heard of this surgery, it's atrocious. What they do is they cut open your hip. They said they tear the labrum was due to an impingement scenario. So what they do is they shave down the bone that creates the impingement that tore open the cartilage.
Yep.
And then they sew you back up. So we're going to cut your bone off, and
grind
then
it
we're
down
going
a little bit, and then
grind it down,
put you back together,
and then put you back together, and staple your labrum back to your femur, your hip.
Sounds good.
And I was like, cool. Yep, I'll see you later. And never called the guy back, had no interest in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my dad is a great golfer, but I hate it. It's so boring to me. And
I hate golf.
Yeah, and so I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I just started researching, what's potentially the cause of this. And where I landed, my hypothesis was inflammation. My body has inflammation. All of my joints hurt all the time. I'm 30. At the time, I was 31. I was like, why is this happening? So I started doing some research, and where I landed was the paleo diet to sort of start eliminating that inflammation in my body. Mm-hmm. So in the course of about 6 months, 5-6 months, I listened to about 9 years worth of Rob Wolf podcasts.
Yeah.
Rob Wolf is a genius. He's sort of the forefather, the harbinger of the paleo diet over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And I just consumed every bit of information he has. He's got a lot of great books out too that he's done. So check out Rob Wolf if you've not consumed any of his stuff. But
Genius,
yeah. So definitely a virtual mentor of mine, whether he knows it or not.
Yeah.
So I started eating paleo, and I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to half-ass it. I want to be strict with this, because I really wanted to lift again. I really wanted to get under a barbell, and I hadn't done it for like 6 months. And so, sure enough, that inflammation started to go away. I started to be able to get back under a barbell. The pain started going away, and this is a big difference between like not being able to get out of bed. Like I would swing over my hip, and it would go pop, 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 to being able to squat under load. Not a ton of weight, but then that weight started creeping back up. And then I kind of started to hear more about this keto diet deal, and that it was even more conducive to anti-inflammatory properties. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll give that a shot. And actually, Jared, one of the impetus for me in going keto was I got your shred program. I got on your shred program, and I was like, well, I want to cut a little bit of weight. And your diet that went along with the shred program, I was like, okay, it's kind of close to keto. And then kind of just took it a step further and just kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
And then, before we even go any further, just because I think it's worth noting, there are a lot of people who start keto without very much guidance.
Yeah.
And are not particularly successful the first time. I failed keto at minimum 3 times before I successfully did it. And by I failed, I mean I would do it for like a week, would feel so stressed out and so angry that I either wasn't peeing ketones, or just felt my energy was so low. I felt terrible. I was getting the shakes, hypoglycemic, that I would punt on it, and then I'd go back to carbs real heavy, and that kind of cycle. So fast forward today, I have been keto for about, and not a strict state of ketosis, but probably 95 to 98% keto for about a year and 2 months, I think, at this point.
Nice.
It has changed my life, both mentally. Like, first of all, my strength numbers are almost back to where they were before I hurt myself. And I'm 25, 30 pounds lighter than I was.
Yeah, that's always impressive when you can, because typically, like if you're in the powerlifting community, the only way, and it eats me up every time, the powerlifting coach will tell you if you want to get stronger, you need to gain more weight. And that'll be their answer for every PR. It's like, dude, I'm stuck on the strict press. Like, all right, you need to gain 10 more pounds, more carbohydrates. It's like
pound those carbs.
And you can do that to a certain degree, like if you don't care about gaining weight or whatever, but you can. I don't think that anyone truly maxes out their strength to weight ratio before you should start adding mass to get stronger. So you're probably getting close, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was an upper limit there for sure. But you hit the nail on the head, man. There's so much to be said about your power to body weight ratio. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I really started to geek out on when I went keto as it relates to athletic performance is, whoa, wait a minute. Like, getting heavier isn't the answer. Like, getting lighter and getting stronger is the answer. And by the way, if you have any concern whatsoever with body composition and how you look with your shirt off, that's going to come along with it, right? Whether you care about your quote body weight or your body composition, it doesn't matter if you're about to step on stage in a mankini.
Yeah, everyone cares about their body composition to some degree.
Yes.
Like I care about performance more than body composition, but if for some reason the world was backwards and to get performance it made you look bad, I probably wouldn't chase performance as much, right? Like, because there's a certain level of vanity in fitness. Like, I want to be able to perform, but I also want to look good in the process.
Right.
That's why we have, in all of our program, like you see on Garage Gym Athlete, we always say, look good naked. We want to look good naked, and perform to the best of our ability.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I mean, call it vanity, call it whatever you want, but like at the end of the day, if looking better, if you feel like you look better in the mirror, if that increases your confidence under a bar, then that helps your performance, right?
If it increases your confidence in life, it helps your relationships, it helps everything. Yeah,
totally. So, and for me, that is absolutely the case, especially for a guy who had struggled really with body composition his whole life. Like, I would get really big and strong, and I'd be like, man, I'm so fluffy.
Yeah,
I don't want to look like this.
It's hard, man. I think I do want to ask about that real quick. I definitely suffered from body dysmorphia for a while, and
I didn't know that.
If it's just constantly trying to get bigger, right? Never satisfied. But I mean, it got bad. It got I didn't have any depression bouts or anything like that. Luckily, I caught it pretty fast by getting into the functional movement. But did you ever go down any of those rabbit holes of beating yourself up for trying to look a certain way or be a certain way with your aesthetics?
Totally, man. Look, here's a picture of me in high school.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's got a picture he's showing us right now. Wow. Yeah. Nice.
Pudgy, right?
Yeah.
And then
we'll have to post that in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm fine with that. And I'm really proud of that's me right before I was in college, sophomore year of college, maybe.
Yeah, dude. You look strong.
I was strong.
Yeah.
But I looked like a big
strong dude.
a politically incorrect term nowadays, but I was a big, strong, fat guy.
Yeah.
That's what I was. And then this is me, and lost a ton of weight. And I think a lot of people do this. They go on this roller coaster,
right?
Where they're like, "All right, I want to be thin," and they do a ton of cardio. They crash diet. They go way severely too low on caloric deficit. They lose a ton of weight, and they look cachectic.
Yeah,
right?
They're focused on the number on the scale, and that's it. And you don't actually look that good when the scale says what you want it to say.
Right.
Yeah.
I just showed Jared 3 pictures. 2 were of me like very fat, and then 2 of me or one of me was very, very skinny, like a rail, no muscle, lost all my strength. And why can't we have the best of both worlds? And so
you should. Yeah, we need to post a picture of you now too, because you're pretty cut up right now.
Yeah, and I've got a few pictures of on my Instagram as well. If anybody wants to go check that out, but happy to shoot those over to you.
Yeah, put them in the show notes for sure.
So so now my body composition is much better. So I feel more confident. Like I mentioned, my strength numbers are getting very close back to where I was when I was 25, 30 pounds heavier, and that's got a big boost in confidence to me. And then just my overall fitness level is a lot bigger. Like I mentioned, I'm doing a Spartan race in October. I'm at 2 actually in the same weekend, so I'll do a beast, which is I think in the 10 to 12 mile range.
13
miles? Yeah, okay. I mean, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
I ran 10 miles last weekend.
You'll be good.
Yeah, I'll be fine. And then the next day I'll do a sprint. And so just being stronger, being fitter, being faster, looking better. For me, keto has been the answer. It may not be the answer for everybody, but I think it gets blown off a lot where people are like, it's kind of a fad diet. It's not sustainable. Well, I'll tell you, man, I will say otherwise, and I've got a pretty good argument for it.
Yeah, and if you're smart about it, so we will link to his Instagram account. He's always posting his meals and stuff, and there aren't many people I feel that are doing keto, quote unquote, correctly. Not that they're doing it incorrectly, because they're probably in keto and they're losing a ton of weight, and that's great. And that's what's kind of kept me from keto really being interested in it, because I'm like, yeah, like ultra low carb, but like I want to eat more vegetables and like, be as balanced as I can, even though you're not eating very many carbohydrates. And I know other people are doing it as well, but I know you personally, I've seen some stuff that you've eaten and I'm like, okay, that looks more legit. Like if I were to be full-time keto, that's how I would want to eat. What do you think, going into keto, like the common mistakes are? You said, because I could see that happening to me for sure. Going keto, like one of my fears would be losing too much weight or losing a lot of energy and stuff. So I could see myself being like, screw this, give me, a sweet potato or something, like give me some energy. And so what do you think, like, how do we combat that going keto the first, 14 days, something like that?
Yeah. So a lot of people will, quote, fail keto the first time, maybe a couple times they try it, because they're not really prepared. And there's a few things that you can do to make yourself more prepared to start. The first is, most people are not looking at going from X number of carbohydrates to sub 20 grams of net carbohydrates per day. For a lot of people, especially if you're eating like a standard American diet, quote, SAD diet.
That's what I've been thinking, man. Like to transition from, like me transitioning, not terrible, but like, because you're relatively low carb, but like if we're talking 400 to 600 grams of carbohydrates a day, like which is standard American diet, down to 20 or 30 or something, like, whoa, that's painful,
Yeah. So 300 to 500 a day, and a lot of those are trash carbs, like super refined, sugary.
Drinking most of them,
absolutely, at least half of them, and they're all super high glycemic. So blood sugars are already on this major roller coaster, and then essentially, if you take away all of that blood sugar, you've got people going hypoglycemic when they go try and hit sub 20. And by the way, I mentioned something. It's when you go keto, most people do not understand, and this still blows my mind. Like there's so much information about keto out there, readily available on the web, wherever, so many great sources. Most people are like, okay, 20 grams of carbs. I can't eat any carbs, because they're counting total carbs, not net carbs.
Right.
So net carbs are total carbs minus dietary fiber.
Yeah, you explain that a little bit for everybody, just so they understand.
Yeah, sure. So
because like a good example would probably be like blueberry or
Let's use avocado. That's the best one. So a lot of when I help people go keto the first time, I go, you can eat avocados almost at will, and they're like, what do you mean? They have like 6 ounce Hass avocado has like almost 18 grams of carbs in it.
Yeah,
12 of those is dietary fiber, right? So that gives you 4 net carbs. It's total carbs minus dietary fiber equals your net carb count.
Yeah,
you want to go sub 20 grams net carbs, and if you're an athlete, if you're burning a bunch of calories, if you're doing a lot of glycolytically demanding activity, you can even go up to 30 grams of net carbs a day.
Okay.
That's about where I sit. It's about 30 grams of carbs.
Do you have a limit on the net? Like you said, eat avocados at will. I mentioned blueberries. That's probably a little bit higher, but there's a ton of fiber in blueberries. And then broccoli, has a lot of fiber, but you'd be edging close, right? Like if you try to eat all of those things. So like, do you normally stick to like a certain... Is like avocado, like you try to stick to a lot of avocado? Do you mix them up? Which carbohydrates you're trying to get with net carbs, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I try and keep it fairly simple. My diet is very simple. Most people would look at it and go, "Gosh, you're so boring." Like
I'm the same way, just not keto. But
right. And the reason I do that is I'm super busy, right? Like I work a full-time job. I'm a business owner. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Like I've got a lot of stuff going on. I don't have time to. I actually have a really good stock of recipes that I've built into my handbook, but I only use about 5 to 8 of them in rotation.
Yeah,
I don't think about it. I don't do a ton of planning. I do meal prep, so I cook like a pretty huge portion, maybe two meals with a couple of different sides once a week, and then I weigh them and measure them one time. Put a sticky note on the top of the container how much food is in there, so I can pre-log it. Toss them in the fridge, and then I don't worry about food for the whole week. So food for me is actually the easiest part of my life. It's I'm at a point where
with enough planning,
exactly. Preparation is all it takes, and I put about an hour and a half, 2 hours in total per week on food.
Okay.
Like I don't go out to eat a whole ton. When I do, it's really easy to if you want to do lazy keto, I don't recommend that a whole ton, but I usually eat the stuff that I cook.
Yeah.
And don't put a ton of time.
What do you do at a restaurant? You're like, give me some meat?
Yeah. Give me some meat. Give me some veggies. Like I've got, I've got the super low carb ones memorized. Like asparagus is really good. Spaghetti squash is good. Spinach is great. Kale is sort of like sits on the fence between eat at will and eat in moderation.
Yeah.
But mostly green leafy vegetables are all good. Like, chard of any kind is good. Mushrooms are good. You mentioned blueberries. Blueberries, of the 4 main berries, right? Strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries. Blueberries are probably the highest carbohydrate and net carbs. Those other 3 that I mentioned are not eat at will, but eat with moderation, and that tends to blow people's minds when they talk about keto. Like, I can eat fruit. Yeah, you can eat avocados, and you can eat those 4 berries.
Yeah, and timing it, I think, is really important as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that as much, but like
I'm good at that.
So athletes in paleo, right? Like, or not paleo, keto. Sorry. You need some carbohydrate. Like, it's just bottom line. Like, you can't, you will transition, right, to burning fat, but like your body, like the just different energy systems don't support. So I think it's great if I want to go on a 10-mile run, 20-mile run, 20-mile bike ride, something like that. I think keto is amazing. Now we just did a 3-minute kettlebell snatch test, something like that. If I'm doing a lot of work like that, how do you time your carbohydrates either before or after to not, for lack of a better word, bonk, and just like hit a wall?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question, Jared.
Yeah.
So
that's why I was like, do we want to go down the rabbit hole? But you can touch on it briefly, and we can cover it more.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, I want to just touch on this, and then we can go to the next part. Carbs are actually not metabolically essential.
Right.
Like, you don't have to consume any carbohydrates. And if you don't believe me, go look at Dr. Sean Baker's Instagram account, where the dude he's been like literally 0 carb for 2-3 years now. And like meat only, right?
Right.
And he operates at a very high glycolytically demanding level. Like, he's doing a ton of powerlifting, a lot of snatching. Like, I saw him do a 1-arm barbell snatch with like 155 pounds the other day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen his training though, but I do think that he's missing the middle tiered energy system.
He may be.
Like, I don't think that because I've actually really looked into his training because I thought it was very fascinating. We had him on the podcast and stuff. And I think that if I were to take him like on a 10-minute all out run for a time, I think that he would bonk. That's just my theory. I think somewhere in there he would, because he's like the 500-meter row master, right?
Yeah.
Like, but that's like super short duration.
World record holder.
Yeah. And so no one's faster and stuff. But I'm wondering about like that middle tier. Like, I just feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, man. Like, I could be wrong. Like, do you think that any carbohydrates are needed for that? And if you don't think so, that's fine too. I'm just curious.
No, you know what, man? First and foremost, what I am is a citizen scientist, right? So let's test that. I know you've got some interest in going keto, so I am super interested. I'm fascinated by all things.
That's what I want to do, is
particularly physical performance as it relates to keto.
Is if and when I go keto, and we'll talk about that more in a second, is like, I'm going to test everything.
Yeah.
I just because I want to see where it breaks. I always want to see where everything breaks.
Right.
Like, I know where my current diet breaks. Like, I know where fasting breaks. Like, because I fast right now for 16, 17 hours, sometimes 18 hours, and then I train, and then I eat. And so I know for a fact, like, lifting, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
Shorter duration stuff, I'm going to be fine. 2,000 meter row, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I will, and I don't know if that's just me or because I'm not fully keto adapted or whatever the case is, but I've tried it, I've tested, I'm trying to find out where my current diet breaks, and that's where it's about 7 minutes and longer is where I start to break down. But I'm talking about 7 minutes at my highest possible capacity. So that's a 2,000 meter row. There's not a better test for me to try and go. I can do it in 650, like all out, right?
Yeah.
And that is if I have no food in me, I'm dying. If I'm fasted. That's not keto. That's not a keto test. I'm just talking about my current diet.
Right,
like, I'm trying to find out where the upper and outer limits are.
Sure.
But I'm interested to
anecdotally, I would say that before, like, my first 3 to 4 or 5, maybe 5 months going keto, there were times where I would really run out of gas. Like you said, it's sort of that mid-distance, mid-time, all-out type stuff. So I was doing a lot of slow lifting, a lot of strength-based lifting, and a lot of like distance running. And that's actually kind of what got me into the Spartan race thing. It's like, keto is an excellent supporting tool for the adventure race athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
So like if you're not doing
you become less
fat-fueling,
high maintenance. Like you're just like, because your body can regulate itself better for these long duration stuff.
Right,
yeah.
right. And you can retain strength. Like it's also a misconception that if you go keto, you'll lose a bunch of muscle mass. It's not true. Ketones are muscle protective. They will actually increase the amount of BCAAs in your bloodstream, so that which increases muscle protein synthesis. It also protects your existing muscle mass. So, I mean, if you're constantly in a calorie deficit, yeah, you might lose some muscle tissue. But if you're not, if you're at a calorie surplus, you're going to retain all that muscle. You're also going to retain most of, if not all of your strength. You might take a step back in the first 4 weeks of a keto adaptation process, but you'll get it all back. Like I just mentioned to you.
Right.
My N of 1 experience is that not only will you gain it back, but your absolute strength will start to creep back up slowly, because of lack of inflammation, because of mobility improvement, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to carbs. Carbs are a tool, right? Timing carbs. So I do what's more of like a targeted keto diet at this point. So people may have heard of these acronyms, like you've got SKD, which is your standard ketogenic diet, which is keep it sub 20 grams.
Everything has to branch out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everything's going
make keto more complicated than it already is.
Exactly. And then you've got a CKD, which is a cyclical keto diet. This is where people are like carbing up like once a week or bi-weekly, like maybe do 100 grams of carbs a day or 150, something like that, once a week. And then you've got a TKD, which is kind of what I am. I don't really call it a TKD or a targeted keto diet. Look, I take 10 grams of what's effectively dextrose. I take Noon tablets. Okay. Are you familiar with those Noon tablets?
Yeah.
N-U-N.
Yeah.
I take 2 of those, which is 8 grams of total carbs. It's mostly dextrose. About 30 minutes before I train, along with some protein and some MCT oil.
Okay.
So I'm effectively giving my body 3 fuel sources, right? Ketones, which they're already regularly circulating in my bloodstream from free fatty acids from my body fat. MCTs will really spike ketones. I'm giving it some dextrose, which will create some glucose in my bloodstream, and then I've also I've got whatever stored glycogen I have. So it's essentially 3 fuel sources. And the cool thing about doing that, I didn't start doing that until I'd already been keto for a year.
Yeah. Now you know. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad I didn't start doing that, because what the other times I was doing basically fasted workouts, or maybe just a little bit of protein or just a little bit of MCT oil.
Yeah.
And I think that like solid 8 to 10 months of training, 12 months of training that way, that got me so well fat adapted that now I have this, I'm sure you've heard this term, metabolic flexibility. Like so metabolically efficient.
Zach Bitter.
Zach Bitters, yeah. I have learned a ton from Zach Bitters about, and that guy's an ultra marathoner, right? I mean, he's the world record holder in.
It was really interesting when we had him on the podcast. Like, he's got it dialed in. Yeah.
He's got it super dialed in. And he's like, look, it really clicked for me when I started listening to Zach, is he's like, look, the goal is not being keto all the time. Like, being in ketosis while you're training, who cares?
Yeah.
Being keto in your life, right? The other 90% of the time, 95% of the time, well, if you're Zach Bitter, maybe 80% of your life that you're not training.
Right.
But that's the goal is not being keto. The goal is being, as an athlete anyway, is metabolically flexible, is to be able to switch back and forth so efficiently and quickly between those fuel substrates that you're going to kick ass no matter what you're doing. And so for me, like this test of, all right, I'm going to go do a Spartan Beast, then I'm going to go do a Spartan Sprint. And I'm just going to, I plan to crush both of them, right? Like I mentioned, I ran 10 miles basically for speed a couple weeks ago. It was not particularly difficult.
And you did with the Noon tablet, the MCT oil. What else do you have?
A little bit of protein.
Okay.
20 to 25 to 30 grams of protein is my pre-workout. And then, and that doesn't change if I do endurance, like if I do a long trail run, or if I do deadlifting. So I told you I PR'd my deadlift twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This last month. So, and by the way, that's on Jared's program too, which is ridiculously effective. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
The hard to kill track.
Shameless plug by not me.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to feel bad about that. That's on me. It is excellent programming, though, man. Like I've really gotten much stronger, much fitter on it, and I've done it all in keto. So, I think the big question is. And I heard you in Doc Lemansky, who is awesome. He really knows his stuff on keto, talking about this on the last episode of the podcast, I think.
Yeah.
And you had a good question for him, which was, why as an athlete would you go low carb if it's already working for you pretty well? Why would you go keto?
Yeah.
And there's a few answers. And I mean, ultimately what it boils down to, I'll give the best answer first. The best answer is you won't know until you try it. Right. Ultimately is because you don't know what ketones necessarily feel like in your system for a long, long time. You don't know it's necessarily, Jared, you're pretty low carb already, so you're pretty well, I would say, fat adapted. You may not be super keto adapted though.
Right.
Meaning,
so I could hit some walls. Yeah. I won't know until I know. Right?
Yeah. You won't know until you know. I think for you, for example, Jared, being a business owner, being a super busy family man, having all these things, all these irons in the fire at once, going keto, if you do it right and you get over the potential energy humps, which I don't have much concern for you going through that process, that you'll hit this big wall. We'll get your electrolytes all set. You're not going to bonk out or anything like that. But you will be so much more productive. And I certainly have been, right? I started a business when I started. After 8 months, I was like, I'm going to start a business.
Limitless pill.
It's Bradley Cooper. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
So you can't climb a building.
NZT. That's what it's called.
NZT. Yeah, that's funny. It really is nature's wonder fuel.
Yeah.
If you think about physiologically, what the keto adaptation is that it's the human body's really very elegant way of accommodating famine period, right? I mean, so
that's what keto makes sense to me for that reason, or just being fat adapted in general, is because there were time periods in human history where, believe it or not, you couldn't eat every 2 hours.
Really?
And go to McDonald's and have your pre and post workout shakes and stuff.
Grab some blueberries from the fridge.
And your body still had to operate and kill things and eat it. So it makes sense to me, and that's part of what drew me to paleo many years ago, back in 2009 and 10. Was that makes sense. It's just the Paleolithic idea makes sense to me. But what's kept me in this field, I'd say, in this way of eating, is, especially as I've gotten older, is I don't do well with carbohydrates. Period. Dot.
Yes.
That's me.
Yes.
Now I'm talking about my N=1. I don't try and push this on my other athletes, because I've dealt with so many athletes now that I've had a different recommendation for all of them and seen it all work. I've seen an athlete where I'm like, you want to lose weight, but you want to perform. We're going to try to go in low carb. Horrible idea for them after 6 weeks, and we're like, okay, I'm going to give you more moderate carbohydrate, moderate protein, let's see where we can fit the fat, get things a little more evened out, closer to a 33 split macro plan, and they do great, and it's just, and I've had people high carbohydrate, high performance athletes, and they do well.
The Matt Chan plan 30-30. 40, you think is what he does?
Yeah, well, I've actually done 33, 33, 33, all split, and seen it work. So I've seen every macronutrient plan work for somebody, actually meet their goals doing it. So I don't believe there's one way, but I do encourage everyone to figure out their one way. Because I believe there is a one way for each person. And what I'm learning is every time I think I just get more in tune with my body every year. It's I eat 3 pieces of pizza, and I'm like, wow, I feel awful. And I'm hungover the next day. It's carbohydrates are not great for me, So I'm going to try and stay away from them. And when I'm off of them, I'm super productive and awesome. So that's why I like to take it one step further and see what keto can do.
Yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, man, I think that you'll see a lot from it. And the comment that you made about some athletes not doing well on a low carb plan, understand that low carb is not keto, and for some people, they may be carb intolerant. Certainly carb tolerance plays a big role in how people will handle low carb. However, I think keto, physiologically speaking, it's kind of a factory setting. It's going to work for just about everyone, barring some very specific
hormonal issue or something.
You got it. One of the things that I'm big with is are you ready to go keto? And what I mean by that is what's your net stress load?
Right.
How many stressors, major life stressors, do you have in your life right now? And if you have a whole bunch, maybe now is not the right time. And then let's talk about the stress management techniques before we even talk about going keto. That's one of the biggest reasons that people fail. So I built a whole assessment on how to do that, how to measure your net stress load before we go.
Foot stop that for everybody. If you're thinking about going keto. And so James and I have been talking about this experiment that I'm kind of introducing now. Is James is going to be my coach for anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. We're going to see, and I'm going to go keto. And the only reason I'm doing it is because we've been getting so many questions I want to try and go keto and see, like, my performance might tank at first. It might bounce back up. We're going to see. And James is going to walk me through it. But we were thinking about doing it several weeks ago. But let's see, I was buying a new house, moving from North Carolina to Texas, 3 kids. My daughter was only a couple months, she's still only a couple months old, not sleeping, entrepreneur, all these different things. Like, I have every single, stress factor possible. And so James and I both were like, you know what? Let's hold off, and now I'm in Texas getting a little bit more settled. James doesn't actually live that far from me, so we're gonna test it out now. And a big reason is James is already a great N=1 because he's been doing the same training basically that I've been doing. So I'm more confident in, like, trying it out with someone who knows how I train. Other people I take, like Rob Wolf, great. He does jiu-jitsu all the time, almost exclusively. That's not how I train. Not even the similar energy system. How he was working with isometric contractions and different. Like, I'm not doing that. So while it might work great from him, it still doesn't translate to me. You, on the other hand, it translates better. So I'm more confident in it. Anyway, so my stress levels have gotten back to as low as they can be with 3 kids and being an entrepreneur. So I think I'm ready to take it on. So what is the first step for me?
Yeah. So the first step is to print out my handbook that I've given.
Yeah.
Read it and then go
highlight,
go through the checklist. There's a number of checklists in the handbook that essentially help you go through the readiness assessment, which includes that net stress load assessment. Get your score. It sounds like your score is at, like, between 1 to 3. That my recommendation is let's go keto at that point. The rest of it is checklists on the right supplements to get. Yeah, there are a few supplements that are primarily electrolytes that I always recommend. You're going to lose a lot of water weight when you go keto the first time. So a lot of people will lose like 10 pounds, especially men. They'll be like, I lost 10 pounds my first week of keto. Guess what, dude? You lost water.
Yeah.
You didn't lose much fat. Most of the fat loss kicks in after week 2, which is about 2 weeks is like the first brunt of, as long as you're being strict with it, that's the first load of the physiological keto adaptation process. The full fat adaptation process probably takes 4 to 6 weeks, depending on your current, level of insulin sensitivity, your metabolic conditioning, how much training you're doing. And the cool thing with athletes is we've got a secret weapon, right? We've got fasted training, which can dramatically accelerate that fat adaptation process. And so if you do like some MCT oil or nothing, black coffee, or better yet, just like water and salt before you train, up to 3 times a week, if you can handle that, that's part of my assessment. So if you can handle that without bonking, crashing, going hypoglycemic, feeling horrible afterwards, barfing your guts out, like you're on a pretty good path forward to go into keto. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
How to start?
That's perfect, man. And so for everyone listening, here's kind of the expectation. James has put together an amazing resource. I'm sure that we will put more information out about that, and he will in coming podcast episodes and different stuff that we have planned. So if you guys are interested in that, really just stay tuned, and we'll put out more information. And you're also going to get to follow along in my journey and me trying that out. We'll update you on the podcast, because what we're going to do, if you are a Garage Gym Athlete and you are actually in the Garage Gym Athlete Facebook group, our private group, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live soon, just me and James, because I sent out an email, a 5-line Friday email a few weeks ago asking for all your keto questions. I'm handing those over to James, and we are going to do a dual Facebook Live answering every single one of those questions in the Garage Gym Athlete Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial, and become a Garage Gym Athlete. That's the only way you're going to get access to that one. Otherwise, we will be doing another podcast episode, not exactly sure when yet, probably after I get up and running. I'm going to take detailed notes about how I feel, performance. James and I just took the EO3 fitness test. I have a baseline score. Really, I can only go down from here. Because I maxed out the EO3 fitness test score. And so hopefully I do have 2 reps I can improve, and I could get stronger. So, I can always get better, but as far as the score goes, it's maxed out. So it's a great baseline performance-wise. And then also, if I get the cognitive benefits, which is to be honest, my primary, performance, that's one thing, but if I get cognitive benefits, I'll be sold like keto for life type of guy. So that's what we're doing. That's our plan. But James, I'm going to wrap things up. unless you have anything else, because I'm going to move to the quick fire questions of the show.
No, good to go.
All right, dude, let's do it. Let's see. Hardest workout you've ever done?
I think I probably have to answer the same thing I did last time. That Murph that I ran
at my house. Where you PR'd like 15 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a 12-minute PR with a vest.
Yeah,
that hurt really, really bad because it was you and Joseph Bandola.
VD,
it's JVD, and then of course Joe and you guys were awesome. I mean, the community in Garage Gym Athlete, just plug you guys real quick, is like I didn't even know these guys, and Jared and JVD came back and ran with me as I'm like barfing my guts out while I'm running and trying to get back, and that was fun but hurt for sure.
Awesome, man. All right, so best activity for building mental toughness?
I think certainly fasted training is a good thing to do. If you
fasting in general,
right? Yeah, it's kind of where I was going with that. Like if you are at a place where you're eating every 2 hours, every 3 hours, snack like 3 meals a day plus 4 square snacks or whatever is standard nowadays. Like don't eat
4 square snacks though.
Don't eat for 18 hours or 14 hours. Don't kill yourself trying to do it, but that's tough.
Yeah,
that's hard.
All right, if you don't have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Barbell and 2 45-pound bumper plates.
Perfect, man. All right, dude, the question of the show, what is the best advice you have for becoming a better human? This is 100% open-ended.
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot. It doesn't matter what your vocation is, what you do in life, what you aspire to do, if you're a coach, if you're a marketing professional, if you're a doctor, whatever. Take a scientist's approach and outlook on life, on everything, right? So what that means is constantly pursue new knowledge, constantly pursue to build new hypotheses on your belief systems, not just science, right? But like the world around you and what's right and what's wrong, and then always seek to disprove those theories, right? Like constantly try and disprove yourself, and what that will force on you is number one, never believing in your own legend so much where you're so locked in, and then you're so susceptible to this cognitive dissonance problem that we have. That's really the main driver behind the nutrition wars, right? Like,
it's crazy.
We could do a whole podcast on vegans versus carnivores. That is just absolutely ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It is
really funny, but it's all driven by this cognitive dissonance thing where people just can't unlock from their belief systems.
Yeah. So I have no bias in nutrition. I just think my mother-in-law, she's basically vegan. She kind of fluctuates between vegan and vegetarian, a higher carbohydrate, but it works great for her.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like it's good or bad necessarily. She'll eat meat occasionally. She's not like super strict either, which I think is awesome. To not be like in a camp so hardcore, but like 95% of the time she's strict vegan, and I'm just like, okay, that works for you. Doesn't work for me, but like I'm not gonna. It's not a religion,
Yes. Yeah. Don't let nutrition become proselytizing. Is sort of that's the net to it, right? And this is not just about nutrition either. Like there's very few things in my life that my beliefs will be set on forever. One is like. God comes first, right? Like that will never change. That's an absolute for me.
Yeah.
Family comes right after that, and then everything else is kind of up for grabs, right? Keep yourself in your life flexible enough to where you can continue to learn and continue to improve as a human. So there you go. That's better humanology.
Awesome, man. So we mentioned your Instagram account. Anywhere else you want to point people or anything they can find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah. So Instagram is jslade, SLADE.AHP. Ancestral Health Project is the name of my company. That's probably the best place to find me at this point. I will be launching the website fairly soon as well. I'll have the Keto Handbook up for grabs for people who are interested, or at least a part of the handbook. To get them started. And then we're going to be doing some keto boot camps on Facebook, on the Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great, man. All right. Well, it's been a blast having you on. More keto resources coming, guys. More James Slade, and you'll get to figure out what I look like going keto. All right, that's it. Later.
your best. Losers always whine about their best.